everybody. My name is Mars. You can call me MG if you would like. Today, I am facing my shame. Now, obviously, you've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail, you know what I'm going to be doing in this vlog, but we're going to pretend that there's an air of mystery. Normally, I am pretty good about reading the books that come onto my physical TBR in a somewhat timely manner. The oldest books on my physical TBR have only been there since the early days of 2024, so like a little over a year and a half. Except for one book. There's one book that I've actually been talking about quite a bit on my channel recently that has been on my TBR since the spring of 2016. 9.5 years. That is insane. And I refuse to let it get to 10 years. I am not going double digits on how long a book has been on my TBR. I absolutely refuse. So I'm finally going to read this book. It was on my July TBR officially, and I did not read it. Then, when I filmed my September TBR, that's the month that's coming up, I guess by the time this goes out, it will already be September. Crazy. Anyway, a prompt came up that, like, this was the only book I could fit for it, nothing else would have made sense, so it is officially on my September TBR as well. I'm gonna read it here in this last week of August, and we're just gonna call it fine. It doesn't matter. Time is fake. There are no consequences to this. I'm just gonna read this book now because I have the time to do so. That book is Inferno by Dan Brown. I bought this in 2016. My senior year of high school, we took a trip to Italy. Those of us who had studied Italian throughout our high school careers, we went to Italy, and we were in Florence, and this book takes place, at least partially, in Florence, and I meant to buy a copy in Italian. I didn't. This is in English, and I've just never read it because I didn't actually have an interest in reading it. I just wanted a souvenir from the city, and I really like Dante's Inferno. Think that's a really good story. I enjoy it a lot, and this is, like, loosely based on it, so that's why I bought it. I had no intention of ever actually reading it, but since it's in English and I refuse to get rid of it, I'm going to read this, and I'm probably going to unhaul it at the end because I don't see myself loving this enough to want to reread it and keep it, so I need to read it. I can't get rid of it without having read it because that would just be too much. Like, it's been so long, I need to actually give this book a shot, but it is so long. Let's see. We've got, what is this? That's epilogue. 620 pages. Honestly, it kind of looks thicker than that, but I don't know. I like big books, so like a 600-page fantasy, absolutely nothing to me. I can knock that out in a couple of days. This, because it's a genre I rarely read, I'm so intimidated by it. I think it's like a mystery thriller, and I've decided recently that thrillers just aren't a genre for me, and I'm not gonna like swear them off forever, but I'm not gonna pick them up nearly as often as I have been, which wasn't very often at all anyway. But yeah, I'm just procrastinating at this point. Anyway, yeah, so today is Saturday, and I do have work at 3 o'clock, which means I have to get ready at 2 to be able to leave and walk there and be on time. It is currently 10:30, so the plan, I am going to edit a video that I have to edit, and while it is like exporting and uploading and processing and all of that, I will crack into this book. I did check out the audiobook from Libby, so that should help me get through this. Oh, awful sounds of a car braking outside. I think it actually might be a bus because there's a bus stop on my block. Anyway, I'm gonna stop babbling. You know my plan now. I will see you with an update at some point. Okay, friends, it is now 1:15 in the afternoon, and as you can see, I've made pretty good progress into Inferno. It's oddly fast-paced for the fact that not a lot has happened, and the writing is also very heavily detailed in things. So I've made it 104 pages in, which is the first 16 chapters. The chapters are pretty short, which I appreciate. But now I can give you a bit of an idea of what this is about. This is technically the 4th book in the Robert Langdon series, but online everyone was saying, like, yeah, you can read them in any order. There's very little, like, plot crossover between them, so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna read this. So Robert Langdon is a professor of history and symbology at Harvard, and apparently he gets up to some shenanigans. I don't know what happens in the first 3. It's Angels and Demons, the Da Vinci Code, which I did own at one point, but I unhauled it without reading it, I think between high school and college. So I don't know. And then The Lost Symbol, is that the 3rd one? And then this is the 4th one? I don't know. Anyway, Robert Langdon, finds himself waking up in a hospital in Florence, and the last thing he remembers was from 2 days previous when he was, like, at Harvard doing his regular teaching stuff. So he's like, I don't know what happened the past 2 days, how I ended up on the other side of an ocean. He's got a bullet wound in his head, like he got, like, scraped by a bullet, so that's why he's in the hospital. And there's these people after him because he's got this, like, weird item. I don't know. The book is written in a not quite omniscient view. Like, it's 3rd person, semi-limited, because Robert is now on the run, but also with this doctor who is helping him in the hospital, Sienna. She's got some things going on. I don't know. I'm assuming we're gonna learn more about her, but they're on the run, and in scenes with both of them in it, we get a little bit of both of their thoughts, but then there's also scenes following different characters, including who I assume is the big bad, this guy on a yacht, and, like, there's weird things happening there. I truly don't know what's going on at this point, but I am only, like, 15% into this massive book, so that's understandable. Like I said, it is going pretty fast, despite the writing style. The writing style is very detail-oriented. Like I mentioned, Robert Langdon is a professor of history and symbology, so he often goes on these, like, mental monologues about symbols and, like, art history and stuff like that. We had, like, 3 whole pages just informing the reader of what Dante's Inferno was, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure if you're reading this, you at least have an inkling of what Dante's Inferno is. Just a thought. So that's not my favorite, but it's not getting in the way of my reading too much. Dan Brown is also very fond of a question mark exclamation point or an exclamation point question mark. He uses both at least once a page, very often, and oftentimes in, like, direct thoughts. So he has, whenever the characters are having a direct thought, he puts it in italics. I don't know if you can see this. Like, so this one is, did they see us? Exclamation point question mark. Over here there's, Jesus, who the hell were those men? Question mark exclamation point. There's also a lot of Italian in this. Bus just drove past. There's also a lot of Italian because it does take place in Florence, and that's also in italics. So, getting a little fun with formatting here. But yeah, I'm not hating it, but I'm also not super invested. I'm kind of just going along with it, but at least it is turning out to be an easier read than I thought it was going to be. So, the plan is now to get something to eat so I don't go to work starving, and then at 2 o'clock I have to get ready for work and go. But I will continue this. I was gonna say before bed, but I get out of work at 11, so I probably won't be home until like 11:30, 11:40. So I'll probably just want to get straight into bed. So yeah, I probably won't read any more of this today, but tomorrow I will. And I will update you as I see fit. Hello, friends. Happy Sunday. It has been a day. I'm supposed to be off today, but I went into work for about 30-40 minutes this morning just to help the opening manager with the deposit because she had never done it on her own before and she was just very nervous about it. I'm like, do you want me to come in for a little bit to be there with you so that if you do like mess up or have questions, there's another manager there with you? And she's like, oh my god, yes, please. So I went in just to do that and then ran some errands with my boyfriend. We went to pick up some pain medicine because we ran out. We also had to go to the hardware store. We got some coffee and just hung out at the coffee shop for a little bit doing a crossword puzzle. So it was pretty nice. It's a nice day out. And then came home and I've been doing a little bit of everything, including reading. So I'm now a bit further into Inferno. I'm on page 234. I've read the first 40 chapters and it's still so detailed in a way that it doesn't need to be. Like, it really kind of feels like Dan Brown was writing this and was like, I've done all this research on all of these famous artists and their artwork and the history of Florence, so, like, obviously having done this research, it all needs to go in the book when it doesn't need to all go in the book. Yeah, so it definitely could be slimmed down a bit, but I'm still intrigued enough to keep going. I'm not, like, fully invested in the story, but I am curious to see how it goes. I think that's really all I have to say. I don't know. Like I've said before, I'm learning that the mystery thriller genre isn't exactly for me. I do really like them when they have a supernatural twist to them. This is not going to be one of those books, at least I don't think so. But I'm going to keep going and update you again at some point. I'm past the 1/3 mark, but only just, so maybe at like 2/3 of the way through, or like when I feel like there's going to be a major shift coming, just to get my thoughts all out there. But yeah, I'm going to now go have dinner because I'm getting kind of hungry, and then probably shower, and then just chill for the rest of the night, do some other stuff, and maybe do a little bit more reading tonight. Yeah, I will see you with another update in a little while. Probably at least a day, for sure, but maybe a couple of days, because I don't know how much reading I'm going to get done. But yeah, I'll see you in a little bit. Hi friends, it is Tuesday, just about 4 p.m., and I am not quite 2/3 of the way through. I think according to the audiobook on Libby, I'm 62% of the way, which like is close enough. But like, I've just got into what I assume is the big twist in this book, and it's so stupid. Like, genuinely, it's dumb. It's so dumb. I'm gonna say what it is. So if you don't want to know, skip ahead a little bit. But like, here, I'll hold the book up while I'm talking about spoilers. So when you see me put the book down, you can stop skipping ahead. But basically, the beginning of this book, Robert Langdon wakes up in a hospital and he has no memory of the previous like 2 nights and how he ended up in Italy and all that. And he goes on the run with this doctor who was treating him in the hospital, and they are like trying to escape from these people who are trying to kill Robert because they want to like unleash this plague or something. And the spoiler, the big twist is, surprise, this doctor is actually the villain of the book, and we're told this information in a flashback that she's having while they're on the train of the guy who like is the mastermind behind this, but he's dead by the time this story starts, we get a flashback of her. We already knew she'd like read all his scientific papers and everything, and it's his idea that like the world needs a plague to kill off however much percentage of the population he said, or else the world is doomed or whatever. And we already knew she'd like read his papers and like agrees with the general idea that overpopulation is going to kill the earth. But then we literally randomly get this flashback from her point of view of her when she first met this guy who like she read his papers, and she like loses her virginity to him and is like in that moment decides to forever dedicate her life to making sure his wishes come true. And that's so stupid. Like, are you kidding me? I read almost 400 pages to get to that. That's the spoiler. So yes, awful twist. So stupid, so dumb. Like, I've heard, like I've read online and stuff that Dan Brown's Robert Langdon series gets worse as it goes on, and like the first one is the best, and then the next one, and so on. And this is the fourth one, so I've heard that people didn't really enjoy this one, at least not as much as they enjoyed the earlier books in the series. But like this is also just bad. So yeah, I'm gonna continue reading because why not? I've invested how much time into this, I might as well keep going. And I don't want to leave this vlog on a DNF, and this is the only book I'm reading. But like, wow, genuinely such a stupid twist. Yeah, I'm gonna read a little bit more and then get dinner, and then I gotta do some chores. But yeah, whatever, I guess. Wow. I can't believe this book has sat on my shelf unread for so many years. I genuinely shouldn't have even bought it, but we move, I guess. Okay, friends, it is now 7:45 p.m. and I have finished Inferno. I won't say this book was a complete waste of time, but like it was a waste of a lot of time. This could have easily been like half the length. Genuinely, I mean that when I say this did not need to be so long. It could have been about 300 pages, and it would have been a lot. I don't want to say easier to read, because it was easy to read, but it would have been a lot less boring, I think. The plot still would have suffered if the only thing we changed was taking out those like paragraphs upon paragraphs, genuinely pages upon pages of nothing that we have in here, where it's literally just Dan Brown shoving in all of this backstory about these artworks that we really only need like a 2 or 3 sentence explanation of to get by. This would have been better, but the plot still would not have been great. There's some things in here that make me not trust Dan Brown to write women. I felt like the female characters were so bland and stereotypical in the way they acted and their motivations and everything. I do not think I will be reading any more Dan Brown if his other books are anything like this one, which, as I've mentioned, people do think that his other books are better than this one. But this felt like if Indiana Jones and National Treasure had the most boring baby in the world. That's such a bizarre sentence to say, but truly, it had some of the adventure of that, but none of the heart of those two stories, franchises, whatever. And like those two aren't faultless either. Like Indiana Jones, definitely very misogynistic, and that I feel like actually Inferno's maybe not as bad as Indiana Jones and his treatment of women, but like there's some questionable decisions that were made. But yeah, I I don't regret having read this, but I also didn't really have a good time reading it. I am happy to have read it mostly for the fact that it had been on my TBR for so long, and I'm glad I read it instead of unhauling it unread. I'm not glad that I read it for the story itself. So, yeah, that was 6.5 hours of my life that I will never get back, but it's fine. I am tired. I'm going to probably get an early night and get into bed and start a different book, one that I am sure I will enjoy much more than this one. But we have now come to the end of this video, so if you've enjoyed it somehow, hopefully you enjoyed the video more than I enjoyed this book, but if you have enjoyed it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I will see you guys in the next one. Bye everyone.